All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Oh, I see you already pressed record. All right. Okay, so thank you so much and welcome to tonight's Blab of Love Differently, Build Your Marriage While Building Your Business and Life. Sorry, I said business, but you know, it goes for both, goes for business and for life. But this Blab is actually for faith-conscious entrepreneurs or leaders who want to keep their marriage fresh and alive using the 5 powerful principles to create their own irresistible marriage. And these 5 principles are from the popular book, Love Differently, Stay Married. And you can find this book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or in your local bookstore. And if it's not there, ask someone to order it for you. But this is not about the book as much as it is about you and why you're here. And I'm super glad that you are here, because all of us sitting here on the panel, we've all been married for actually a large number of years for some of us, and not so large for others. But we're all here just sharing experiences. It doesn't mean that we are marriage experts per se, but we are definitely experienced people sharing our seasoned experiences in marriage relationships. And so I just want to welcome you if you're now joining, and thank you so much for being here, because I know you could be anyplace else, so I just really appreciate that. So there are a few things that I do want to explain. First of all, I am the author of Love Differently, Stay Married, and as well as 7 other books. And I have had an incredible series of, I don't know, just like brainstorming incredible moments all throughout my married life. And I think that that's part of the reason why I feel completely called to serve in the marriage department right now, if you want to say it that way, because there are so many marriages that are falling apart, particularly in the entrepreneurial world. Now, that doesn't get talked about a whole lot. And the reason it doesn't get talked about a whole lot is because I think entrepreneurs sometimes feel like they have to create and set a certain standard in their life, and they have to maintain that standard. But if they actually come forward with what's happening in their relationships, well, that might take that standard that they put for themselves and drop it down a little bit. Is that ego? Perhaps. But I know a lot of it, too, can also be, part of that shame game. And so, we're here tonight to really help encourage you that if you are an entrepreneur and you are either struggling in your marriage or you're about to be married and you just want to set yourself up for a fantastic marriage, that's what these shows are about. And I am super, super thankful that I have a lot of people on board who are from celebrities in Hollywood to pastors to, every time I talk about this, people just want to jump on board because they know how, for one, America itself is marriages are falling apart everywhere. So thank you so much for being here. Anyways, I want to introduce my lovely co-host, Alice Shepard, who is down over there. Hi, Alice. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Excellent.
We've been really busy.
Yes, absolutely busy. And it's been a great week. Did you have a good week?
Yes. I started kickboxing.
Oh, did you really?
Yes. It's awesome.
That is awesome. And you know what? I actually started it too last week. So good job.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, so we did it together. Yeah. Didn't even know it though, did we? Yeah.
Are you hurting as much as I do?
Pardon?
Are you hurting as much as I do?
Oh, you have no idea. I was so sore for the first few days. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. All right. So I have actually invited a couple of guests here tonight that I am thrilled to have. And one of the reasons why I'm so thrilled is because one of these guests of mine is Dr. Randy Hartman, who I met through an incredible leader that both he and I are being coached through right now. His name is Jeff Goins, and Jeff Goins is an exceptional writer, best-selling author, and he's just an incredible guy. And if you have anything in your life as an entrepreneur that you have wanted to do, I highly recommend that you seek out people who have done it successfully and have been, made their hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, and learn from those people. And so Dr. Randy Hartman and I have actually done just that. We've gone through Jeff Goins, he's just an incredible leader and teacher. That's where we initially met. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you tonight is an incredible article that he had written that really touches the essence of what marriage is about, and he calls them 2 hacks. And so before we go into that, I do want to just share with you a little bit. If you've joined us inside the room on the chat, I want to invite you to post your questions by adding a / and a Q, okay? So / and Q before you type in your question. And this way it actually highlights the question for us, making a greater chance for it to be responded to before the show ends. And you'll notice that when we do have a free seat, that means that we have to boot somebody out of here, and we do it gently and kindly. But when we boot somebody out of here, it leaves an open seat for Q&A time, which sometimes, depending if we run out of time, we may have to stop recording and then do it in the green room, which, it's not a problem to do that. We totally enjoy. I also want to mention to you that it is important for people to build relationships. The people that come into the chat room, a lot of people are going to be we call them VIPs in the Love Differently community. Those VIPs actually get to step into the seat early. So if you want to be one of those VIPs, just let us know. We're going to put the link in there for the landing page that we have so that you can actually go there, opt in, and then you'll know when every show takes place, and you'll become one of our VIPs to receive an excellent gift tonight, which actually, I'll just show it to you. It's called The 5 Powerful Principles to Creating Your Own Irresistible Marriage, and this is a PDF document that you will get for opting in and for knowing every single time we have one of these blabs. So with that being said, what we're going to talk about here tonight are 3 out of the 5 secrets to loving differently. And you're going to hear how those secrets can impact your marriage with more love and more joy than you ever thought possible. And you get to meet our superior guests who will just share with you how they connect to their spouses by using some of these secrets that we do talk about in the book. And lastly, you're going to hear how and where you can find out more information to have your own strategies in marriage. Guys, again, if you're entrepreneurial minded, or even if you're mission minded, you build a plan to make sure that you're going to succeed. But how many people build a plan to make sure that their marriage is going to succeed? And that's why we're doing these blabs. So with that being said, I want to introduce my special guest for tonight, Dr. Randall Hartman. He has been a consultant and specializing in helping baby boomers through difficult transitions. There's a baby boomer riding the wave of transition from a long-established career to an encore career. And after serving 30 years as a successful minister, he resigned and became nationally trained to lead churches through transition. Dr. Hartman started his own blog to assist other boomers in transition as well. He and I met, like I said, via this article on the website called The Good Men Project. And maybe some of you are familiar with that. I actually hope that you guys are, because it's a brilliant, brilliant website. And he's going to share a little bit more about the article that he posted on there, and you'll find out the reason why he's here. So, Dr. Hartman, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly, and I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here, and congratulations on writing 8 books.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, congratulations to you on this incredible article. Can you just share a little bit, first, the statistics, because I know how many people have read it, but have you been privy to how many more readers have attached themselves to that one article?
Yeah, well, I was really surprised at how many people wanted to read the article, and it was quickly shared over 3,000 times by readers. And then several days after it went live, I received an email from the editor of the Good Men Project, and it's an email that goes out to all the writers, and what it does is it ranks all of the posts during that week in terms of how many people read the article. And I was really surprised to see that of all the articles posted on that website, that my little article ranked number 7 in all the posts that were there.
Right. And what was it, like 17,000 people had read the article? I mean, just in a few days' time?
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number. Yeah. I don't get.
Yeah, so tell us.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, tell us the name of the article and why do you think it was so important?
Yeah.
And actually what brought you here to this show tonight?
Yeah, well, the name of the article is "The Only Two Hacks You Need to Stay Married for Over 40 Years." And I felt qualified to write that article because I've been married for over 40 years. So, you know,
okay, guys, we got to give him props for that. Absolutely. Props. So just so you know, Randy, the props that you're seeing right there, the little circles that are going up, those are people congratulating you as you're sitting there talking.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, so tell us about those two hacks and share a bit about that particular article.
Yeah, well, as a minister for 30 years, I've preached a lot of sermons on love. And you know, in my studies of the New Testament Greek and the word love, you come up with these 3 different words for love. And if you've been around the church for any length of time, everybody knows, you know, there's the brotherly love, there's the sexual attraction love, and then there is this sort of agape love that they talk about in the church. And they say that's the highest form of love. And it occurred to me the other day that what you can really do is you can take that concept and not just talk about your love for God, but you can take that very same paradigm and say, let's talk about how we love each other in a marriage relationship. So that third level of love, that so-called highest level of love in the Greek language, agape, it's really a love that's based on decision and an act of the will. And it's so contrary today to how we talk about, how we talk about love in our culture. You know, we have all this stuff where people say, well, I fell in love, or I couldn't help myself, you know, and we just love at first sight. And, you know, I've always come to believe that if you couldn't help yourself to fall in love, then what happens if you fall out of love? Well, I can't help myself. I just no longer love my spouse. You know, I fell out of love, as though it's something beyond your control. And, you know, the point I wanted to make in the article was that's just a bunch of baloney, because it's more an act of the will than anything else. So the first hack then would be that in your marriage relationship, you have made a commitment, and love rests on that ironclad commitment that you made. Yes, there's the other 2 kinds of love. There's, you know, kind of a brotherly love or a friendship kind of love. There's attraction and the sexual kind of thing. That's all great. And you can have those 2 things. But if you don't have this third kind of love, you won't make it to 40 years of marriage.
So you're saying commitment is the kind of love with the act of the will. So Alice, you were sitting there smiling and kind of giggling a little bit there when he started talking about it. What were you thinking there?
We talked about agape love a couple of months back in marriage class, and when he said what happens when you just fall out of love, that was kind of funny to me, because falling out of love is one thing, it happens, but you can just as easy fall back into love, you know? That's what happened with me and Joe. I was not in love anymore, you know, and I was seriously considering leaving and giving up. And with just a little bit of work, I fell back into love with him, and probably more than I've ever been. It's possible.
So you say just a little bit of work.
Actually, just a lot of work. But when you enjoy it makes it a lot easier, you know?
Right. So now the truth comes out. Okay, so Dr. Hartman, so that was the first one, that you really believe that it's not a matter of falling in or falling out, but it is a matter of choosing to love somebody and staying committed in that relationship. And what Alice is saying is that to her, it does feel like falling in and falling out, but that you can fall back and love again. So are you saying then that it's really based on a choice to do this whole falling in and out?
Yeah, and that's my opinion, of course, but that's exactly how I see it. and that's the fine distinction that the Greek language makes. You know, this third kind of love, this agape love, it's a love that is based on the act of the will. And in Alice's example there, you know, I respect her opinion, but part of the reason she was able to work it out is that she exercised her will. And she said, I'm going to make this thing work. And I think, you know, when you look at her example in that regard, it goes back to the act of the will, this desire that says, this is not a disposable relationship. I'm committed to this, and whatever it takes, I'm going to make it work.
Exactly. Divorce is not an option.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, excellent. Okay, so now what was hack number 2 that you had shared?
You should always show your spouse respect. Aretha Franklin had it right when she sang that song, you know, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, and I'll not sing it for anybody, but it, and you can all be grateful for that. But it really is true that when in a marriage relationship, if you start to lose respect for your spouse, then it's going to show up in many, many ways, and the marriage will start to deteriorate. It really will. And there's been times when I think all of us have been out with another couple, and you kind of watch how they relate to each other, and you'll see the spouse, like for example, the husband will disrespect his spouse in public. And he'll maybe make fun of her or talk down to her. But once you start to lose respect, your marriage is headed down the wrong road, and you have to work hard at maintaining a deep level of respect for each other.
Okay, so now my question to you is, everybody has a subjective view of what respect might be. So in my home where I grew up, the respect level that my parents had for one another was not at all the kind of respect level that my husband and I have for one another. So how do you determine what is respect, where one spouse might say, you can't treat me that way, that's disrespectful. The other spouse might be saying, no, that's very respectful, right? So how do you determine what's respect and what's not?
Is based on how my spouse defines it, not me. And I can say that 41 years ago, when my wife and I were dating, we were in college and we were playing badminton, and I began to talk to her, and we got animated, and I told her to shut up. I said, shut up, shut up. Well, let me just tell you, I grew up in a family where we told each other to shut up every 3.5 minutes. We just did. But in her family, you never, ever told someone to shut up. That was the highest form of disrespect. Right. And so 41 years ago, when I told her to shut up, and she looked at me and she said, in my family, we don't say that. I've never told her to shut up since that time, not one time in 41 years, because respect is not based on my definition. It's based on her definition. And if that's makes her feel uncomfortable, I'm not going to go there.
Right. I love that it's based on how the spouse feels. And I don't think enough couples really take the time to determine what respect feels like or looks like to them and really share that with one another. And actually, it could be an entire list that people don't even think about. They just think that if they just go by on a daily basis, that eventually they'll all figure it out. But it doesn't always work that way. And one of the reasons why we're doing this show is to be able to say, there are really important things to share prior to marriage, and that's one of them. what is your list of what respect looks like? So that's pretty significant. So Marnie, by the way, and Marnie, forgive me for not even introducing you or saying hi to you or anything. Marnie Marcus is actually on here tonight too, because she's doing some pretty profound things in marriage, and I'm super excited. I invited her on here to share a little bit about that with us toward the end of the show, but Marnie has actually submitted a question here that I want to read because I think this is really good. What if your spouse feels like you are disrespecting them if you disagree with their opinion, right? So if, like what you said, to you, that really wasn't an issue to say shut up, and you really feel strongly about that. Well, no, it's not disrespect. I don't mind saying it because it feels comfortable for me. So how do you navigate this little disagreement?
Well,
yes, sir.
You know, I don't know that I have any brilliant answers for that, but I just know that in my relationship with my wife, that I love her so much that if anything I say or do makes her feel uncomfortable, to me, that's a way of showing disrespect for her. And so I just won't do it. And it's reciprocal, though. I mean, if my wife sees that she might be saying something or doing something that makes me feel uncomfortable, she has enough respect for me that she'll not do that. And I just want to say that, yeah, it's good to talk about it before you get married, but obviously it's a lifelong learning project and process. And so you learn as you make your way down throughout the decades. But man, if you've decided that you're going to love your spouse, no matter what, you're going to make it work. And if you decide that you're going to have respect for each other, I think you'll make it.
Yeah, no, I love that. Marnie, do you have something you want to add to that? You can unmute. You can have a discussion here with us. You don't have to pop in the question.
If you're not allowed to have an opinion that varies from your spouse, and to vocalize that without them feeling like you're disrespecting them.
So I think we missed the first part of that. What were you saying again?
Well, if somebody, let's say you have an opinion that the war in Iraq was good, and they have an opinion that the war in Iraq is bad. Okay, it's just something like that. Okay. You cannot have that opinion without them feeling you are disrespecting them. You have to build your opinion to theirs in order to respect them. What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, you know, I think it really is a matter of pick and choose your battles. I mean, do you want your marriage to suffer because you have a different opinion about something that's going on halfway around the world? I mean,
I just use that as an example. I'm just saying any opinion that varies from theirs is not allowed, or you're disrespecting them.
Yeah, well, you know, I think if you go back to a mutual respect, mutual,
then it would have to come back.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very mutual to me.
Okay, yeah, I was just playing devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah. No, I think this is great because I do think that couples hit this head on many, many times throughout the relationship. I really do. And this is just my opinion about this from living with a man for 33 years whom I absolutely adore. And I think a lot of it has to do with our own egos. And I believe that as we sit there and say, you know, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, and the other person says, no, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, as you know, Randy was saying, are we going to be worried about being right, or do we want to be in relationship? So somebody has to be the hero or the heroine. Somebody has to back down and say, you know what, that's your opinion, that's my opinion, and that's just all there is to it. But I think the difference here is when that I'm right does turn into really hurt feelings, because then the person does feel disrespected. And when you feel disrespected, you then start to think in this realm of, you know, I've been rejected, this person doesn't care about me anymore, you know, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden you've got this whole thing that's happening in your mind. Now, I personally believe, and I have felt this way for many, many years, that I am one of those like practical psychologist kind of people where I'm always putting psychology in place, not meaning to, but it's just it's part of who I am. And so as I've watched and grown in my own relationship with my husband and I, and worked with so many couples from all over the world, we are all the same, you guys. No matter if we think we're different or not, we are all the same. We all go through the same similar type of problems and issues. But this particular one that we're talking about right now is going head to head on an issue where somebody wants to be right. And it's just the saddest thing to watch this relationship just break apart just because somebody has to be right. And so if you can develop this habit of taking personal responsibility, and this is one of the 5 secrets, taking personal responsibility to say, it's okay. I don't have to feel rejected. I don't have to feel unloved. I know I'm loved, and I know that this is just going to pass. But, you know, I'm just going to be the bigger person. I'm just going to say, honey, it's okay. You know, I understand you have your opinion and I have mine, right? Abusive relationships don't stop at that. Abusive relationships, that's not what we're talking about here tonight.
I can say,
but
let's just agree to disagree.
Yeah.
We're not going to agree on that, but that wasn't accepted. So and that's pushing more into an abusive situation. We're not allowed to have an
exactly.
Okay. I just want to have a definition.
And I think that's key. Absolutely. And I think that's key, because if the person is not going to back down and they're going to continue hounding you about this, that is abuse. That crosses the line of abuse. And if that is a continually, if that happens continually, you need to step out of that relationship, to separate for a while until you can figure out how this is going to be a healthier relationship. And you both need to get healthy at that point. Okay, that's just my personal opinion. Like I said, these are just things that we share in our experiences as seasoned professionals. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are absolutely right. So, each one of us maybe have different opinions about this. So, which is so exciting for me, because that's what I love, kind of the different opinions. So, okay. So Randy, let's come back to you for a minute. I want to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, tell us where you're from. And you said you've been married for 40 years. Did you and your wife meet in the same college, or I can't remember what you were saying earlier? The college?
We both grew up in northern Indiana, and we first met at a church camp when we were in high school. And I saw her there, and I thought, man, I want to ask her out, but I'd never been on a date in my life, and I was terrified, and so we didn't connect. But then about a year and a half later, we met again at a Christian college, and I was there, and she came as a freshman when I was a sophomore, and I said, hey, there's that girl I wanted to date, and I didn't have the confidence to do it then, but I soon found my confidence. So that's how we met.
Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you how you proposed. And don't leave out any details. I know you want to leave out details, but no, we want details.
Well, I'm not really, to be honest, a romantic kind of guy. I mean, I want to think I am, but I'm really not. And so it was just pretty classic. I mean, we were just like kind of having a dialogue, and we had just gotten back. We had been apart for some of the summer, and we just gotten back to school the following year. And I just pulled the ring out of my pocket and asked her to marry me. So, I mean, sorry, there's not a real big story there.
That's quite okay. That's quite okay. Not everybody has one of those big romantic stories. I totally understand. So, all right, we talked about the 5 marriage secrets, and I'm just going to list them very quickly. So the first one would be to love God. Second one, take personal responsibility. Third, celebrate the victories. Fourth, be unified. Fifth, show gentleness. Out of those 5, which do you think you and your wife would say is probably the most important?
Yeah, well,
in
I
your
really
relationship?
think that this concept of loving God is really foundational, and that, you know, as great as the other 4 secrets are, and they are great, you know, I almost suspect that you could have those 4 things in your marriage, but you know, if God isn't stirred into the mix, you're going to have some problems. So I really have to go with that as a foundational piece of the puzzle.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate you being on here tonight and, you know, really giving us some insight.
Mm-hmm.
Before you go,
Sure.
could you do me a favor? Describe your wife to us, since she's not here. Just describe her to us without using the word love.
Well, man, I tell you what comes to my mind, and I feel like a complete idiot for saying this, because it's a horrible, campy line out of a movie, but I'm just going to tell you it. I'm just going to say it, and it's true. I'm sorry, I'm going to cry, but she really does complete me. I mean, we're opposites. Yeah, I'm pretty gregarious and outgoing. She's not. She thinks with one part of the brain, and I think of the other part of the brain. And I know that we're incomplete without each other, but when you put us together, that's what makes it special.
That is awesome. And what is her
Yeah,
name?
her
We
name's
never
Jackie.
heard her name.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie. Well, I hope Jackie's listening to this tonight so that she could hear what you just said, because I think that's pretty awesome. And, you know, when you can find a relationship like that, wow, that's extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard of a couple who, I think they both passed away recently. They'd been married for 76 years. 76 years. I mean, we can only hope to have a genuine, loving relationship for that long, right? And here's the thing. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. We have got to get serious about strategizing and planning in marriage, just like we do in business. If you want to find joy, and if you want to find peace, and if you want to find harmony in your relationships, you've got to set aside time to learn how to do that. I'm sorry, I keep sitting here pounding my hand. I am passionate about that. So, you know, it's extremely important. And Randy, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Hartman, for coming on here tonight and just explaining to us what the 2 relationship hacks are. Could you tell us again where people can find that particular article or find more information about you?
I write on my website, my blog, randallhartman.com, and on there I'll have links to the things that I'm doing. I've also begun to write on the Huffington Post. I've been published there a couple of times, and so but really I think the place to go is randallhartman.com, and that's where you can find out more about me.
Awesome. Randy, thank you very much for joining us. And what we're going to do, I hope that you're going to stick around, because when we remove you, we're going to ask people if they want to jump in here to ask you any questions about the things that you've shared here tonight. Or maybe there's just something on their heart that, you know, you might be able to help with. So if that's okay with you, I would love it if you would stick around.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So Alice, you can go ahead and have Dr. Hartman come out, and then we can let someone else in. So Marnie, I'm going to turn it over to you now for a few minutes. As I was saying earlier, Marnie Marcus is doing some really incredible things. Marnie, how long have you been an entrepreneur for? And just tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
I started out in May of 1990, and I started my business so I could stay home with my 2 children at the time. They were 2 and a newborn. And I decided, I had this feeling, I was went out to look for a job because we needed money coming in. My husband had lost his job, and I had this feeling, if you leave home, you're going to miss these kids' lives. You'll never come back again. And so I started a business as a computer trainer and started having people come to my house, kind of how you do with piano lessons, and taught them how to use computers. And just it morphed into the internet and everything since then. So that's how.
That's cool. I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that's how you started in your career. Very interesting. That's very cool. Okay, so now you've been an entrepreneur for how many years is that?
26 in May.
26 years. That's a long, long time. I'm so glad that you just stuck it out, because I know so many entrepreneurs just start to go down that road of being, whatever, author, speaker, they sell a product or whatever, and then suddenly they feel like they just can't do it anymore and they just want to bail. And I know from personal experience, as we probably all do here, that you've got to stick with it. Just like a marriage, you have got to stick with it, because at some point something will break for you, just like it did for us. So it's very, very important. So Marnie, share with us a little bit about your personal experience about marriage. How long have you been married?
I have been married 5 months.
She is a newlywed, and we're super happy for her about that. Oh, props. Wait a second, props. So being a newlywed is pretty exciting. Do you think that you could describe your current husband without using the word love?
Totally.
Just out of curiosity.
Okay,
let's do it. Let's hear it.
A dichotomy of tough and tender and kind of serious but silly. And
tough and tender, serious and silly. I like this guy already.
And logical but soft-hearted. And everywhere he goes, people know him. We cannot leave the house without somebody knowing him and loving him. He is kind and thoughtful, and he remembers. He works with students, and he remembers every student that he
worked with in
the school
system. That's a gift.
So.
That's a gift. And if I had a buzzer, I'd be going right now, because you used the word love, but hey, that's okay. We still love you, so we're not going to. Okay, so Marnie, you have got an incredible summit coming up for people who are entrepreneurial minded, who do want to strategize in their marriage and help themselves create a greater marriage. And I wanted to bring you on here because I've seen from the very beginning how hard you have worked in all of this. I've seen the impact already that it's making. It's made an impact in my own life. So I wanted you to come on here to share with our audience about the summit and where they can find more information.
Yeah, I started out doing it because there were role models in my own life who helped me believe that I could have a good marriage. For a long time, I didn't think I could. I was very cynical about it. And when people talk about their happy marriages, like, yeah, right, you're just not, you're not admitting that you've got problems, And, but I met 3 couples, and I got to stay in their home. I got to know them, and I saw firsthand what it was like. And so I decided that more people needed to meet couples who were making it work and who were happy, and getting to know people who could be role models to them, that it is possible, so that those who were kind of cynical like me, or like I was in the past, could have some hope to at least see what it looks like. And, kind of the question I asked in the last segment, sometimes we don't see that we've got an abusive situation because that's all we've ever seen or known. And so you need good role models to help people realize, okay, there's a problem here and we need to try to work this through, or, worst case, move away from this situation. But if you don't see good role models, you may never see that you could have better and that you could be treated better.
Right. So let's just talk about that for a second before we talk about the summit. When I coach my clients, I absolutely love getting that light bulb to come on that says, because it took me many years to get the light bulb to come on in myself. So when a client gets it just like that, I'm like, okay, either I'm a really good teacher of this, or I was really slow when I was learning this. So I'm not sure which it is yet. But the whole mind and body, when you can get your mind right, you can get your body right. And I'm talking your physical, how you feel physically, how you look physically. When you can get your body right, you can get your mind right. But one without the other there's going to be some kind of topsy-turvy. There's going to be some kind of imbalance going on. And there's 3 very, very key important ingredients in having a phenomenal life. One is to keep your mind straight with success, with excitement in life, with serving other people. And then there's this other emotional side of us that goes down the suffering path, the obsessing path, and that is such an unhealthy mindset to have, which I believe one of the reasons why I love entrepreneurial people is because they are excited about life. They do want to stay on that positive, healthy path of celebrating and of serving. And so that, to me, creates a healthy mind. And when you can create a healthy body that goes along with that, then, I mean, it's a win-win. And everybody has their idea to how to create a healthy body. But the third thing that I teach is to have a mentor, somebody that can be your role model. Like what you were just saying, Marnie, it is extremely important to have role models. Okay, now I'm done with that. So back to the summit information. So how does what you just said about, wanting a role model and really trying to figure out how you were going to take what you've learned and share that with other people, what did you do with that?
Okay, so I interviewed 19 entrepreneurial women who say they have happy marriages, and ask them all the same questions. And it's really kind of fun because there are no right answers, as far as this goes. It's what works for you as a couple. I mean, just the financial question alone, some people are like, oh, you got to do it all, keep all your money together. And the other's like, oh, no, have a his, hers, and ours thing. And it works for them, And so the nice thing about it, if you look at the broad picture of it, you see that, hey, you've got to tweak and test and see what works for you. But then you also see common threads that go through all of these people and their answers. And they're different personalities. So if you don't click with one person, maybe they kind of rub you the wrong way or whatever, this other person might be the one that resonates with you and you can learn from them.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. That, you've created all these audios. Now, tell us a little bit about it. Is it just audios? Is it just how people more info too?
You kind of broke up a little bit and I didn't hear your question.
Marnie, did I lose you? Oh, did I? I'm sorry. What I was saying was, I know that you have some on audio. There's going to be some in text form. Do you have a way that people can actually find where the summit is?
Yeah,
so they
if
can
you
get
go
more
to
information about it?
ignitepoint.com, you go and then you pick where you are. Are you cynical? Are you challenged in your relationship? Or are you happy and you just want some ideas? And then we're going to direct you to the segments. So I've broken it down by subject segments. So there might be little 2-minute to 5-minute audios from each of these people with their answers to these questions, so that you can really dive into one subject and kind of get a broad view of that subject from all, maybe not all 19 of them will have answered that question, but a good portion of them would have.
So if somebody has a question about finances, for instance, is there a section just on finances, or would it be something else?
Money. So you're just going to go
excellent.
And look through that. And there's a synopsis, so you can kind of see the main point and the synopsis, so you can decide if you want to listen to that segment or maybe you need a different one.
Right. So Alice, if you don't mind, if you can drop Ignite Point into, it's ignitepoint.com, correct? Yes. Okay. Just drop that in there, and that way people can go to it if they want to check out more information. I love what Marnie's done. I think it's brilliant being able to, take on this concept of interviewing 19 people. How did you choose 19, by the way? Was it just a number? Did you have like a certain number of people that you aimed for?
And I don't know where I got 21, but I've done that before, 21, in another book that I had. And so 2 people had some things come up, and they couldn't follow it. With me, 20. Count me.
Gotcha. So this is right. That's true, because you had a great interview. It was a lot of fun. I interviewed Marnie, so it was a lot of fun. I actually wanted to just encourage you, as the audience and listeners, just please, check it out. I think it's fantastic. Same thing with Dr. Randall Hartman's information. Check out his website too. But what I would like for you guys to do, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, we can go ahead and either pop them up here or just join us. We've got an open seat here. And I think we popped that question up a little. Yeah. So just go ahead and join us. You open up the seat and you can come inside. You can just say hello or you can ask a question. And Alice, we're going to get your husband in here at some point. I just know it. Maybe not tonight. So anyways, while people are deciding whether or not they're going to jump in here, I would love to just share another thing with you. People can understand any kind of concept that they want to, whether it's in your personal life or in your professional world. You can create a business plan to become super, super successful. And you may have a relationship. Maybe it's a budding relationship. Maybe it's a marriage. Maybe you're thinking about becoming engaged. But here's the deal. If you have this crazy, creative, exceptional, successful business plan that's happening and your business is rolling along just fine, but you have not actually created a plan for your marriage. Now, that's not to say that you have to plan out every detail. That's not what I'm talking about here. But let's say, for instance, that you really have grown up in an area where taking personal responsibility within a relationship has been challenging because you didn't really know how to do it. And here's how come people don't know how to take personal responsibility. You had a parent who would just tell you what to do and you just simply obeyed because that's the way it was. Chances are you're not really going to know how to take personal responsibility because you haven't been given the option to create your own choices in life. And so many people don't understand how we have choices in life for everything. A lot of people don't want to be responsible, therefore they'll step back instead of stepping forward. And that's what I'm calling you to do as an entrepreneur. Create this movement that we have going right now with Love Differently. Step forward. Get this idea in your head that if you can create a successful business or a ministry or whatever it is you're creating, you can create a successful marriage too. It does happen. And like Marnie said, not everybody has all the answers, but we do know that it is possible. I know, I've had struggles in my own marriage. Every single one of us in here have had struggles in our marriage, but working through those struggles by kind of like when you're in business and you start to fumble in business and you go back to the system. You go back and you look at that plan. Okay, what did I commit to here? What was it that I said I was going to uphold? What is it that I need to step into that I haven't been stepping into? It is the same exact thing in your marriage. You've got to be able to do the same exact thing. And I'm not trying to preach here. I'm just trying to encourage you that this is exactly what we need to be doing in our marriage to make our marriage work. Like what Dr. Hartman was saying early on is that it's not a matter of falling in and falling out of love. It's a matter of staying committed with that willpower that you have inside of you, with a relationship with God, with a relationship with yourself, and then a relationship with your spouse. And in that order. If you don't know who you are, how do you expect your spouse to know who you are? And part of Love Differently, Stay Married is creating that difference of connecting with God, connecting with yourself, and then connecting with each other, and in that order. So if that's something that you guys want to learn more how to do, please, I encourage you to go to lovedifferentlystaymarried.com because that will help you in that order to be able to get a little bit more strategic about how you approach your life. So we actually go ahead and let, I think I'm saying Ari. I think I'm saying that correctly.
I did.
Can you bring him in?
Hello, good evening.
Excellent. Hey. Hello, good evening. Well, thank you for being on. I'm super always excited when people are brave enough to jump in.
Alice this evening, and so I'm excited that she welcomed me to come and jump on. I actually was just at the same time leading my own webinar on relationships, so I was excited that when that ended, I was still able to jump on and catch the tail end. This sounds really wonderful, and I'd love to put out a question and welcome your feedback and guidance. And again, thank you for this wonderful presentation that you're having, and Alice, thank you for all the wonderful back end work that you're doing there. You seem like you're staying quiet, but I know that you're really like the puppet master behind everything there. So one of the things that we discussed tonight on my webinar, which is entitled the Relationships 101, the question of how do you deal with a couple when One of them is highly committed to going for therapy, to being growth oriented, always wanting to improve things, but the other person is just content being content. They're just not motivated, not inspired. That's just who they are, and that's their life. And as a result, one person feels comfortable and the other person feels trapped because they want so much more. So what advice would you offer to such a couple, and particularly to the spouse who feels stuck and wants more?
So who do you think you're addressing your question
to? Any of the
Let's
brilliant and wise people that would like to tackle it.
Anybody. Okay. All right. Marnie, do you want to try tackling that one? Because I certainly have a answer for that.
One of the people in the summit kind of addressed that a little bit. I think it was Alison Chavez talked about it a little bit, where her husband wasn't interested in kind of self-improvement or anything like that. And she just, she kind of got him on board with her being willing to self-improve and everything. And then she just sort of lovingly dripped on him a little bit until he got into it. I think Felicia Slattery had a similar situation with her husband too. They both kind of shared something on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's probably Kelly.
So No, you touched on something extremely important. Well, Alice, did you have something you wanted to share with that too?
Different opinions. The way I see it is that when the partner doesn't want to pull through with you, then I would pray about it. And like the Bible says, if you act in a godly way, you attract your spouse to get closer to Jesus himself. And at some point, maybe have a change of heart and follow you.
Okay. And, both answers are great. And here is my answer right here. I'm not kidding you. Okay, so let me explain why. For 8 years, my husband wanted nothing to do with entrepreneurship, wanted nothing to do with personal growth. And I'm not saying anything out of context, because everything about the website that is there, lovedifferentlystaymarried.com, is all about exactly the person that you just described. Not only is it for people who have, had difficulties in their background, or have had this type of a situation where one person wants personal growth and the other person does not, or one person is an entrepreneur and the other person's not. But this particular question, I love that you've brought it up, because I think the website answers those types of questions. All the free information that we give out answers those types of questions. They both actually hit on the answer. You lovingly drip, and you count on more than just yourself. You have got to have God, a higher power, whatever. You've got to have something more to lean on than just yourself. And this book has that information in it. That's where those 5 principles came from. It came from my time, my 8 years with my husband, lovingly dripping, giving that time to God to just absorb the wisdom that I could hear, that I could write down, and that's truly how that book was born. And I honestly feel like I can't take credit for the book, but I can take credit for being willing to sit down and write it out. And I think too that patience equals love. And I think I even said this on our interview, Marnie, when you and I were talking, that patience equals love. And the more patient you can be with yourself, the more patient you're going to learn to be with your spouse. Our growth periods are never the same. Never the same. How many times? Now, do you pronounce your name as Ari? Is that how you say it? Ari. 50-50, and I chose wrong. Okay, Ari. Thank you for that. So when you go to any kind of a presentation, you have 2 people sitting in the same room. And you walk out of the presentation, and one person says, "Man, that was such a great presentation on the Earth's atmosphere." And the other person goes, "Huh? That was a presentation about the stars and the moon. It wasn't necessarily just about the Earth's atmosphere." So you understand what I'm saying? 2 completely different opinions about what they just learned. And that's what happens all throughout life. You have 2 different brains. Like Dr. Hartman was saying, actually, that, one brain was left, one brain was right in their marriage, but the 2 together completed each other. And that ultimately is what happens when you can stick with it, when you can lovingly drip, when you can listen to higher wisdom than what you have, when you can get your mind and your body correct, and in that space where you're learning from a mentor or somebody else who's been there and been successful.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Does that help answer your question?
I asked a question to which you've written a book about. That's pretty incredible. Thank you. Thank you for telling me to ask the question.
That's pretty awesome. Thanks for asking.
I'm just kidding. There you go.
I'll
Thank
give
you.
you your
That
money
really
later.
is very insightful. I particularly I appreciate the idea of patience, because the reality of today's world is such that we are all about instant gratification. If something is not going to work, I hear from my clients all the time, if it's not going to work, I'd rather just get out now rather than waste another month, 6 months, year in a relationship that's, and the question is, well, you know what if you did invest those 6 months, year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? So yeah, you may spend 10, 15 years of your life getting it right, but after that, you're in a wonderful, beautiful place. But it takes a long time to get there. And that patience, that idea, I love the term they use, to just kind of drip and just slowly let time work out and to hold on to that commitment. That's a beautiful idea, and I'm going to treasure that. So I thank you for it.
That's great. And by the way, my husband is actually, he just told me this past weekend that he actually wants to work in my organization. I'm so excited. I wouldn't necessarily, tell everyone to have your spouse work inside your organization, but he has a skill that is so needed, and it's just one skill, but that one thing can help tremendously. So I'm very excited about that. And his whole personal development, personal growth has just,
that skill must be the skill of loving and supporting you, which only he can do.
Oh, yes, that's exactly what it is. No, actually, he's exceptional with technology sometimes. So he's got a little bit of tech stuff that can really help assist. Ari, before you go, Marnie, would it be okay with you if I go ahead and booted you out? Because I would really love to have the doctor to come back in and just give his opinion to you, because who knows, it might be different. Are you good with that, Ari? Okay, so Dr. Hartman, if you're still there, would you please come right back in? Awesome. All right, so the question again was?
The question was, to which someone here in the room has written a book about, is how do we support and help someone whose spouse is really not interested in self growth and in improvement by way of themselves or their relationship?
Well, I'm really not sure I have much to add to what Kelly has said. I mean, after all, she has written the book. The only thing I can say is that, after being married for 40 years, I just think that a good marriage is a lot about give and take. I mean, you just give and take. And, so what if my wife disagrees with me, or I go back to this idea of commitment and this idea of I'm just going to love my wife no matter what. And I'm just going to keep on loving her. And I think the analogy of a drip is appropriate. And a drip is a small thing, but over time, a drip becomes a powerful force. I mean, look at the Grand Canyon.
Right?
What some water can do over time. And so I really think the key is commitment and hanging in there to let time work in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Ari, thank you so much for joining us and asking that exceptional question. And please,
will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
well,
hopefully,
please join us again. Okay.
Conflict with the 8 o'clock webinar that I'm doing on Wednesday evenings about relationships. So you're welcome to join me for mine, and maybe perhaps we can continue to collaborate in the future. But it's really an honor to be able to join you tonight.
Thank you. Well, we'll definitely have to touch base. Okay. Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook. All right.
Thank you.
Excellent. Have a great night. Thank you. All right. So I do want to thank everybody for joining us here. We are 1 minute over time. Dr. Hartman, thank you for being here. It was so much fun interviewing you and listening to the information that you shared, especially about the 2 hacks. And again, please just go to, is it drrandyhartman.com?
randallhartman.com. Yeah.
RandallHartman.com.
I did. Was it
That's right. And I think
was
Alice
it
put
with
the
a double
website
L?
in there.
It is.
Okay,
Yep.
so you spelled it right.
You did indeed. Yeah. And it's been a privilege.
Yeah. And I actually have a thank you gift for everybody here. And Alice, I don't know if you can grab that link too and pop that in there. That would be awesome. So again, I want to thank Marnie Marcus for joining us, and make sure that you guys check out her summit. It's going to be exceptional. And Dr. Hartman, do you have anything coming up that people could know about, or right now you're writing your blog and doing the amazing work that you're doing with baby boomers?
I'm working on some things, but I don't have anything to announce right at the moment. But thanks for asking.
Okay. Awesome. Absolutely. And Alice, where can people find out more information about you, my dear? Alice'sBlessedLife.com, and feel free to put that in there too. Alice, thank you so much. You just did an amazing job tonight. I really, really appreciate everybody that you brought in and brought out and put the links in there. Guys, have an incredible night. God bless you all. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. All right? Have a great